Hello and welcome to this week's Rotherham Advertiser SportsChat Podcast. It's got a little FA Cup slant this week, taking into account the Millers' exit at Leeds United on Saturday. We'll have a broader look at the other games as well, and some of the giant killings that took place over the weekend. To discuss these matters, I have Millers correspondent David Beddows.
Good morning.
And editor of the Rotherham Advertiser, Andrew Mosley.
Hello.
Thank you for your time this morning, gentlemen. Let's start with Rotherham United then at Ellen Road. Old foes taking on each other again. It's been said time and time again on this podcast, hasn't it, Dave, about all the little crosses that take place between Rotherham and Leeds United these days. It was Leeds United who came out on top and progressed to the next round. Rotherham deserved to be dumped out, Dave?
I think on the balance of play it was. I mean, it was a poor quality tie. It was sheeting down with rain. The atmosphere was flat. The game was flat.
You did say sheeting, didn't you?
I did, yes. And both teams looked okay between both penalty boxes, but so many attacks broke down in the final third. I think Rotherham really ought to lay the glove on Leeds, to be honest. Not that Leeds were fantastic either. And the two goals, well, an absolute thunderbolt, and the second was a calamity. But I think, over the full piece, no complaints.
I don't think Neil Redfern will, not to be cynical or anything, but I don't think Neil Redfern will be crying himself to sleep over exiting the cup, will he?
I don't think he will, and I think he'd trade a win yesterday for one when we play him in the league in March. That's a big thing, isn't it? So I don't think too many tears were shed.
It's disappointing in a way, isn't it, that you use the word flat. It's an FA Cup game. It's a Yorkshire derby. It's something that years ago people would have relished, thought what a great draw. Everyone's going to be up for it, the players, the fans, and it turns into something that it's a bit of a run-of-the-mill game. No one's too bothered about going through because they're probably not going to win the cup, and it's a bit of an inconvenience. And I think that's something that maybe shines through a bit in the FA Cup at the moment.
And at Ellen Road as well, one stand closed, Dave, so the atmosphere was going to be slightly flatter than normal, shall we say. And Rotherham as well, the lack of depth in the squad was really highlighted by the selection that Neil Redfern named and the substitutes bench.
That's it. I mean, Steve Evans made 4 changes and he were resting players, whereas Rotherham, he had to pitch in young Facey again. Of course, he put the lad Belay, the Tunisian, in straight in for his debut. He just hasn't got that luxury at the moment with numbers.
Good job it's January.
Well, yeah, quite. Early January.
Yes. Just a quick look forward then to Tuesday night. Brighton rocking up at the New York Stadium. Doesn't get any easier, does it?
It doesn't, and we're back to the FA Cup here because I noticed Chris Houghton rested a few on Saturday at Hull with a view to this league match coming straight after. Again, you've got to ask what the fixture planners are doing, scheduling league games only 2 or 3 days after the FA Cup. This is sort of prompting managers to rotate the squads even more.
And Andrew, it just takes away from the glory and the tradition of the FA Cup, doesn't it? It makes it more of an inconvenience than a spectacle.
It does. The old style cliche of the magic of the FA Cup seems to have died for a lot of clubs, although some of the results on Saturday and over the weekend suggest that it hasn't all over the place. But I think you're right, resting players, rotating squads, fans turn up, they still pay the same amount of money and they're left a bit disappointed.
Well, just to look at some of them other games over the weekend, maybe the inconvenience of it all could be highlighted by no one other than Liverpool on Friday night. They drew 2-2 at Exeter. Jurgen Klopp saying before the game that a replay would be a nightmare with the fixture congestion that they already have, the amount of injuries that are stacking up at Anfield, and what do? They go and draw 2-2, Dave, and have to play it out again in a couple of weeks' time.
Well, that's it. I mean, you were inviting that, really, weren't you? Instead of putting out a full-scale squad and probably dealing with the tie. But Klopp afterwards seemed to be having a little dig and a moan about the amount of games. He knew that when he came here and took a big salary and took control at Liverpool. That's what the English game's about.
Andrew, could it be catch-22 though? Because there's so many injuries already that there's a need to rest players because of the fixture pile-up. But then at the same time, that just leads to results like this in another game coming along.
It does, and I think it maybe impacted upon Klopp's selection for Liverpool somewhat. I think other clubs had less of an excuse. For instance, Aston Villa drawing 1-1 at Wickham when they desperately need a win after about 20 games without winning. Strange decision
from Remy Gard to maybe make so many changes when all that team needs is a win.
Yeah, exactly. I think some of those players would have loved to have been out there winning a game, getting back to winning ways, confidence up. But no, they get rested. Rested for what? To lose another Premier League game next week?
Well, we talk about resting players, Dave, and Swansea rested 10 to travel to League 2 Oxford. Quite a few links with the Millers there. Chris Maguire on loan at the minute. Former captain Johnny Mullins playing Joe Scars. Danny Hilton as well. There were quite a few links there, and the Rotherham Old Boys did a job on the Premier League boys, didn't they?
They did, yeah. It was quite amusing hearing how lively and confident Maguire was as well. Do we see some of that from him when he gets back?
Exactly. I mean, he's stepped it up against the Premier League team, and that could bode well for Rotherham in the second half of the season.
Absolutely. I mean, the lad has got something, hasn't he? He hasn't really showed it for us yet, so hopefully it might spark him to come back and get in the team.
Again, Oxford were really up for that game. I think they dominated. They were quick on the break. They looked sharp. Swansea didn't necessarily look up for it. I mean, they woke up a bit later on in the game, but it was too late by then. And at the end of the game, you're out of the FA Cup, being beaten by a League Two side.
Well, I think rewinding it back as well to the FA Cup and the future of it. Let's think back to 1971 when Rotherham last played Leeds, when there were 24,000 at Millmoor, there were 34,000 at Ellen Road for the replay. And just think of the fallback since then. What do you do? Do you put a Champions League place on it for the winners? What do you do? It's a big question for the authorities.
And Leeds United once got fined for putting out a weakened team in a game. When you could do that sort of thing, maybe it's time to start having a look at that.
Well, there's options available, isn't there? But something needs to be done. We talk about all these big boys going out, but what it does is teams like Oxford and possibly Exeter and possibly Wickham, who are in dire need of these funds because the Premier League has scooped up so much of the money. What it does for them is a big away day, another Sky showing possibly, and a chance for them. That's the FA Cup magic, isn't it? The fact that they can pay their players for another year.
Yeah, it does. It's. I mean, often the ties are bigger somehow when they're at the smaller ground and the ground's full.
Because you don't get to see them every week, and because the atmosphere's built up because they're not full every week, and
that's it.
All the town get behind it, don't they?
A replay at Anfield or Old Trafford is one thing, but a replay at West Brom at the Hawthorns on a Wednesday night or whatever for a small club, it don't quite have that allure, does it? So it's us, of course.
No, I think a couple of the Exeter players weren't too disappointed to draw though.
Yeah, exactly.
They said straight after the match, it's a trip to Anfield, and I think for them, that's a great thing.
It's a day out, isn't it? And it's something that their fans will remember for years to come, and that adds to the glory of the FA Cup.
And unfortunately for the teams that did well, it's also put a couple of their players in the shop window.
Well, yes, the young man at Oxford who got a couple of goals. I think there could be one or two clubs from a league or two higher sniffing around at him.
I think him and Nichols for Exeter.
He had a very good game.
Yeah.
Right, gentlemen, we'll leave that there. I just want to take your predictions quickly for tomorrow night's game against Brighton. Obviously, Brighton went on that storming run earlier on in the season. They were the only team in England for a long time to be undefeated. Fell from grace a little bit since then, but still occupying a playoff spot and still very much on the fringes of the automatic promotion places. Dave, it's going to be a tough one given Rotherham's injury woes, given the fixture pile-ups. Is there any hope?
There is. I mean, live, Brighton are actually the best side I've seen this season, but they beat us down there. But the wheels have come off big style, and they've not won in 6, they've not scored in 5. They're due to score a goal. Rotherham just lost 3 on the spin. I think the smart money's on a draw. I'd go 1 apiece if you're asking for a prediction.
And Andrew?
I think Brighton are taking this seriously. I heard someone say yesterday they barely put a tackle in on Saturday, so they're obviously not wanting to get injured for this. But as Dave just said, the wheels have come off somewhat, so maybe confidence is a bit down. I'm going to actually go 2-1 Rotherham.
Oh, very optimistic, gentlemen. And Brighton as well have just signed Anthony Knockhart, haven't they? The winger who helped Leicester City to promotion with those outstanding performances a couple of years ago. So one for Rotherham United fans to certainly keep an eye on at the New York Stadium. Right, I'll thank you very much for your time, and I'll say thank you very much at home for listening. All the action from Tuesday night's game will be in Friday's Advertiser, and you can keep up with it live on Twitter by following @RodTiserSport. There'll also be a match report from the game on the final whistle at www.rotherhamadvertiser.co.uk. I'll get my words out eventually. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.